Hello.
Hey, Mark, I'm just checking in. I've made you co-host, so you should have access. And then I'm staying out of your way. So if you need me, maybe send me a chat and I'll be, because I'm monitoring a couple different rooms.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So am I in now or do I need to do something different?
Nope, you're in. You should be able to share your content. And I would say it's still 10:02, so I'd give people a little bit of time. But when you're ready, it's automatically recording. So literally just, it's yours. Take it away. I'm just here for tech support now.
Talk to you later. Cheers.
Thanks. Cheers.
Hello, everybody. Just for those of you that are actually joining us right now, I am going to just going to turn off the microphone and the video for now, but it should be starting soon, and we've got a pretty full hour. Hopefully, we'll have some good questions. I do expect that we will, and we'll be happy to help. So anyways, talk to you soon. Hello again. This is Marc Saint-Jacques. I'll be your host or speaker for this session. We've got a group of about 15, 18 people right now, so happy to have you on board. And I expect to start in a few minutes, but just wanted to let you know that we are all set up and ready to go. See you soon. All right. Good morning, everybody. This is Marc Saint-Jacques. I'll actually turn on my video camera for this to start off. So I want to wish you a good morning and thank you for joining us today. Hello, everybody. This is Marc Saint-Jacques with Notarius. Happy to be with you today for this session. We've got a nice sized group. Hopefully you can all hear me and you can see my screen from what I can see. The purpose of this session for today is actually going to be two parts. There is a small sort of level setting that we do with regards to the various products. But I do have everything set up so that we can actually do a full-blown demo and hopefully answer some questions for you, because I do know there are quite a lot of questions as far as getting the most out of your digital seal. So what I would invite you to do is, if you do have questions, please send them out through the chat, and hopefully I can answer them on the fly. I've got both screens running, so we should be able to get through a lot of these pretty simply. So if that works for you, we'll get started. I'm not sure if Todd is going to be doing any other introductions, but otherwise I'll just get started. So, so thank you again for joining us. My name is Marc Saint-Jacques. I'm VP of Sales and Digital Transformation at Notarius. I've been involved in the realm of digital signatures now for a little over a decade. So I've been involved since the beginning with the Alberta Landscape Architects. I've also worked closely with the other associations that are in Alberta and across the country. So definitely, I hope to be able to answer your questions and got, like I said, everything set up. I've tried to upload the document. I'm not sure if you'll be able to get the presentation, but worst case, I will make sure that it is available. So for this presentation and other, so not a problem. And on that note, I will get started. All right. So give me a quick second here. All right. So really the main thing I want to introduce as a concept, so like I said, about 15 minutes of theory, and then we'll get into the demo side of things. On the one hand, we have three elements that you need for digital signatures to work. And I bring this up because it's one thing to have a trusted issuer. So in this case, the association has taken on the responsibility of issuing it to individuals that are professionals. And on the other, you have the professionals that are using this to be able to sign and seal work. And then afterwards, you've also got the last component, which is a government agency accepting these documents. And you need really all three elements. And I do realize that it can be a bit frustrating right now, where there are certain jurisdictions that may not accept digital submittals of files, or vice versa, that your customers that you're working with, your consultants that you're working with may not be digital. So just remember that there are really three components, and if you have all three, it works well, and Notarius is generally at the center of all three of these elements in order to assist either government agencies that have question on verification, validation, as well as with the organizations, the firms that need training on consignment desktop or any other tool. So in Alberta, just as a sense of, is the Alberta Association of Landscape Architects the only one doing this in Alberta? The answer is no. There are plenty that are doing this right now. So you've got the engineers, the architects, the landscape architects, of course. Lawyers are doing it with the Land Titles Registry, as well as land surveyors and technologists. So you get a sense that there are more and more professional bodies that are issuing digital signatures to control the authenticity of professional work products. So that is interesting to see. So from the basic framework and the association, then we move down to the notion of guidelines at the association level. Now, I'm not going to get into a whole debate about standards and guidelines, but we can agree that there is definitely a need when it comes to associations defining the terminology around the use of digital signatures and the methodology they require. So in the case of landscape architects, they shall ensure that their digital seal remains under their sole control to prevent any authorized use and to maintain trust in the association digital seal. And just so that we're clear, the whole idea here is that a digital signature, contrary to a picture or even a self-signed certificate, is password enforced. So you cannot sign a document just by having a certificate or just by knowing the password. So it's two-factor. One is something I have, the digital signing certificate, and another is something I know the password to use it. And that is one of multiple elements, including a face-to-face ID verification with pieces of ID, confirmation of your status. So these are all elements that ensure and add trust to the framework of using digital signatures. Now, of course, when we talk about other associations, when we talked about Alberta, well, coast to coast right now, we are working with 45 different partners in about 14 different jurisdictions, so professions, we'll say. So that is one of them where, so among the 45, we have architects, engineers, appraisers, and so on, and we do that from coast to coast. So that gives you a sense of the ecosystem and where that's driving. And of course, as you can imagine, with the pandemic, this has been further added as far as the amount of people that are requiring to go digital. So definitely, we've been kept very busy, and I think that's part of the reason why we're doing this exercise today, is to be able to answer some of those questions. So as far as clients are concerned, I'm going to go over this pretty quickly, but you get a general sense that we do work closely with large government agencies as well as large providers or consultants that are servicing these government agencies. And we also work with various municipalities. So that is sort of the ecosystem in which we play. And before I continue, and this is where I do a bit of theory, and I'll show you a few examples. And like I said, for those of you that are looking for getting the most out of your seal, do not worry. We have plenty of time, and I've got plenty of goodies to show you that for those of you that may already have a digital signature, this should be a helpful session. So for those of you that are new, that may not have a digital signature right now, we have really three types of signatures out there. The lowest form of legal reliability would be an electronic signature, and it's often associated with a picture. And that's what you've done maybe in the past, is just copy paste a picture onto the document. So this is the lowest form. At the other end of the spectrum, you have what's called the digital signature. And the digital signature is sort of like a virtual passport. It's issued to you by a third party of trust, in this case, AALA. And the signature, the digital signature, because two-factor authentication, also provides a higher level of legal reliability. But more importantly, it acts like a digital lock. So I refer to it as a digital passport, but it's actually like a digital lock that renders a document tamper-proof. And tamper-proof doesn't mean that you can't add other signatures to it, What it does mean, though, is that you can't necessarily add, let's say, modify and alter content, and I'll show that in a second. So those are really the two extremes. And of course, the third one is the one that we know the most, and that for everything other than professional work product, let's say, that you're doing, you'll likely use a trusted electronic signature, which is a hybrid. A trusted electronic signature is usually on a platform like a DocuSign or Consigno Cloud or HelloSign, whatever these platforms. If you bought a house in the last few years, you've seen these before and you have a general idea of what they are. But essentially, the platform allows you to take an electronic signature, the image, apply it onto the document, but the digital signature that's used to sign that file is not issued to a person. It's issued by the platform to secure, tamper-proof the document and confirm that it did come from that platform based off of the identity of those people. So if I can offer an analogy, which is really neat for Alberta to illustrate my point, why do we need these three types of signatures? Why do they exist? Well, I'll take the example in real estate because it is, as far as I'm concerned, the best one to present this conceptually. So essentially, you have the electronic signature. This would be what you would use if I were to send out an email to you as a real estate agent and I said, hey, you know what? I am the greatest real estate agent in the world. You got to buy from me. Well, I would send that in my email, and my electronic signature could be my signature block in my email. Now, that's fine, and the implications of me making that claim are pretty low. But let's say I sell your house. Well, we need to have an agreement, a contract between the buyer and the seller. I can't do it with just a picture or just an email. That wouldn't be legally reliable enough. So I would use an e-signature platform and gather your signature from both parties. I have your email. There may be a second factor. And that's a higher level of legal reliability, and that should stand out for the transaction. However, as we know, your home isn't your home until it's registered with the land title registry. And it's at that point that it's recognized by the government, and the title and deed and all that stuff is transferred along with it. And what the land title registry says is, well, you know what? A trusted electronic signature does fine by itself for two people, but I need to make sure that it is a lawyer in good standing and that it hasn't been altered in the meantime. So I need a digital signature from a lawyer, from the LSA, from the Law Society of Alberta. And that's where a digital signature comes in. And why do I spend so much time on this is really moving forward. If we refer to things as digital seal or digital signature, we're really talking about a signing certificate. And that's what we're demoing mostly today. And if I refer to electronic seal, electronic signature, I'm talking about a picture, and we will compare both of them. So hopefully this clears up a lot of misconception there may be. And of course, the role of AALA is to make sure that there is a way to secure the work that you're doing and that you're comfortable with that final document, and that it can be altered or modified without having to reapply a digital signature to re-authenticate that work. So on that note, just as a basic framework of what that looks like in real life, well, these are types of electronic signatures. So a picture, an email signature block, an Adobe self-signed certificate would be a good example where it's actually a digital signature, but because there's no validation, there's no verification, it has very limited legal reliability, because anything that you create with that self-made Adobe certificate, well, I can make, and then we're back to square one. We can't trust that it really is you that signed that work. Then we have trusted electronic signatures, and finally we have digital signatures. And something just as an FYI, as far as how do you maximize the use of your digital seal, well, you also have the notion of certain platforms like Consigno Cloud that can actually cohabitate with professional signatures from the association, along with a signature from an external third party. So just something to think about, that there may be circumstances where you're trying to get approval or sign off from a third party, and that does exist and it does work. So as far as why do I bring this up? Well, today we're going to be talking about really two things, and I'm just going to flirt with a third one. So I talked about electronic signature picture. I talked about digital signature being a signing certificate. Well, the digital signature, our product name, we'll call it as such, is CertifiO. And that really is about identity and authorization and authenticity. And that's what we're going to be showcasing today. So the signing certificate itself can be used in other tools. And I just happen to have today for you Adobe and Bluebeam. So we'll be able to compare how to sign with those two different methods. But every time we're talking about a signing certificate, it is called CertifiO. And when I'm talking about Continuum, well, Continuum Desktop is our PDF reader and signing tool. It is free, and it is designed to make your life easier to sign batches of documents and to do other things also. However, be aware, you don't have to use Continuum Desktop. If you want to use Adobe or Bluebeam or Nitro, PDF Exchange, you name it, have fun. You can do it. Do I think you're missing out on great features? Yes, and that's what I'm going to try and show you today as far as how to make your life easier. But definitely consider that a productivity tool that is an add-on to your digital signature. And the last one is more for those of you that, so CertifiO, there is a way to batch verify documents with a right click of your mouse in Continuum Desktop. However, for those of you that are submitting documents, let's say to government agencies that are skeptical for whatever reason or don't know how to validate or how to trust, we also have a platform called CertifiO.com where people can upload a document. It's designed mostly for a one-to-one ratio to confirm that it is valid. And of course, I'll show you how to validate documents directly in Adobe so that they can do it. But let's say you end up in a situation where you submit a document to a client is skeptical. Well, CertifiO.com is a website that allows you to do that. And I'll show you that so that we can really cover all aspects of, well, how do I use my certificate in different PDF readers? How do I use it in Continuum Desktop? And how can my customers verify? And that's really my goal for today's session. And like I said, we are still very good on time. I may be talking a bit fast right now, but trust me, it's just to get through this part as quickly as possible. So the whole notion here that is extremely important is how do we confirm trust with regards to a digital signature? So I talked about how it was a digital passport. Well, let me paint another picture for you. So try to imagine, we often hear, well, it's a notarious digital signature, and it isn't. So look at it this way. We are a trust network. We provide what's called a certificate authority that is government grade, and in which we have a branch, which is in this case the Alberta Association of Landscape Architects. So in this particular instance, try to imagine if I were to compare it to credit cards. So Notarius is Visa, it is a trust network, but Visa doesn't actually issue cards to anyone. They work with partners, banks, that issue the credit card to the bank. So in our case, this is a very similar way where Notarius acts as the trust network like Visa, and AALA would act as Bank of Nova Scotia or TD or whatnot. So that is their branch, and from that branch, there is a certificate at the bottom of that equation. And why do I bring this up? Well, I bring this up specifically because a signing certificate is a standard. It isn't proprietary. It doesn't belong to us. So I want to dispel this perception that a digital signature is something that Notarius created in a basement on a Sunday afternoon. It is a standard that's been in place for over 20 years. And the PDF on the right-hand side is also a standard. Even though Adobe created it, they released the source code, and it is a standard now. That's why government agencies were quick to pick up on it. And within this standard of a PDF, we have what's called the notion of a trust store. And a trust store is where you would put the root certificate of certificate authorities that you trust. So mechanically, this is all in play and all in place already. And a root certificate is essentially, if I were to describe it, would be the equivalent of the mother of all our notarious certificate issued digital signatures. So once the root certificate has been trusted once in Adobe Reader or other tools, then it will trust the family associated to Notarius. And this is literally a few clicks, and I've cleaned up one of my PDFs to be able to show you how to trust it. And it's just important to keep in mind that by default, PDF readers don't trust anything. The mechanism is there to allow for that, but they don't do it. out of the box. So hopefully this clears up some of those misconceptions. So for those of you wondering what a signed PDF looks like, well, I know that some of you already have a digital signature, so I realize that this will be a bit redundant, but for sake of discussion here, we have here a signed PDF. It has the electronic signature, the image of the seal, and of course the right-hand panel is where I would find my digital signature. In our case, for Consigno Desktop, it's at the bottom. For Bluebeam, it's very similar on the left-hand side, so it's pretty straightforward. And of course, once that digital signature has been placed, it is sealed. So cryptographically, it is sealed, and you can layer, so like a sheet of glass, you can layer more signatures on top of it. However, you can't alter the source content. It is locked or blocked, whatever way. And of course, if I wanted to alter it, I could take a sledgehammer, break the glass, but at that point, it isn't sealed anymore. We're back to a copy. So on the one hand, mechanically, a digital signature secures or tamper-proofs the data. On the other hand, though, how do I trust that this is marked? Well, I can see a whole bunch of detail that the signature is valid, it hasn't been modified, it's signed by the current user. It includes an embedded timestamp, which is a way for us to confirm the moment at which that transaction took place. And I can see that it is LTV enabled, so long-term validation enabled, meaning that we've embedded all the elements of proof to demonstrate that even if you didn't have a digital signature 5, 6, 7 years from now, it has all of the embedded proof to be able to demonstrate that. And of course, if I look at the certificate details, well, this will bring up the DNA of my digital signature. And here I'll find, in my case here, it says notarius and my name. In your case, it would say AALA, it would give your name, it would give you a designation, likely a member number. So pretty much everything you're going to find on a stamp or whatever you're using to identify yourself on documents, that DNA is going to be in that digital signature. And it's the combination of those two elements that makes a document official for landscape architects. Now, of course, what happens if it's modified? Well, I said that you can't alter the source content. However, what you can do is that you can see that I can take a document and redline and mark up, which is something that happens on a regular basis. It doesn't make the document any less valid. As the statement here says on the message, the message will change from signed to sign. Signatures are valid, but with unsigned changes after the last signature. So again, if I open up the side panel, I can see that annotations were created. There were 3 elements that were there, and I can see that it was signed. So I'm taking only responsibility for the part prior to these markups and red lines. And of course, if I wanted to peel back those layers, I could just by clicking to view this version, and this would remove all the annotations and bring me back to the PDF. So even though we often perceive the PDF as a flat 2D file, it actually is a digital format that has a whole bunch of different pockets that have different use cases and benefits, whether it's to enter metadata or other sources of information such as this. So in this particular case here, I have been able to remove the annotations. And of course, for some of you, there may be a need to sign data, and I just cover it in a few slides. And again, my purpose for these slides is to hand them over to you afterwards. But it is possible to sign data or CAD files or pictures, Excel spreadsheets, and I'll show you that in a second. And hopefully we'll have time to demo that also, so you've got an idea of how you could assemble documents that may include native CAD format files. So how do I do that? Well, 2 parts. I can do it either as attachments within the PDF, and that's what we're going to demonstrate, or there's also a feature called a portfolio. A portfolio is a feature that was developed in PDF to allow for, literally as the name states it, add files that could be PDF or other into a binder, a portfolio. Now, of course, this binder, just like in a paper binder, would allow you to remove documents and put them back in and replace them. So there's no guarantee of integrity. It's really more of a container to move stuff forward. However, if you take a PDF attachment function, and I'll show that in a second, you have the ability to attach files within the PDF. And if you convert it to PDF A3 and then sign it, it will maintain PDFA compliancy, because the PDF A3 format, which is again an ISO standard for archiving, will allow you to attach files, CAD, Excel, pictures, whatever, and then digitally sign the container. So now the PDF is no longer used as a flat 2D file, it's actually used as a container. And that's where we can put all these different file formats. So I'll show you that right now. Essentially, a PDF looks like a regular PDF. I can see here that I've got a cover sheet, and I do realize this may be small on your screen, but it says official document included as attachments in PDF A3, and I've got a Revit file, a DWG, an Excel spreadsheet. I have put the image of my seal, so I've met the first requirement of my association to have the image of my seal, signature, date, and so on. On the left-hand side, I have my digital signature. So I have met sort of the requirements of the association. Now, of course, I want to secure data, not a PDF. Well, in the attachments here, you can see that I have attached Excel spreadsheets, a DWG file. They map up with my cover page. And of course, these files can be exported. So they are working files, and they can be embedded back into a CAD set or whatever. However, they can't, if they are altered, they can't be put back into the PDF. So you are claiming responsibility. So look at it this way: the spirit and intent of how you secure data is pretty much you're using the PDF to attach files and then signing the wrapper, the container, and that's a pretty common practice. We see this with other profiles or industry. I'll put it that way. As an example, Bulletin 108 came out from Alberta Transportation for the engineering group, and this is exactly how they're doing it to submit CAD or BIM or other file formats that may not be easily signed because they are what I would call live data. And for those of you wondering, the attachments here can be, I've tested up to a gig of data as an attachment, and the file barely reacts, so not to worry, it doesn't have too much implication. Finally got a question, so I will take a second to answer that, and we'll move on. So any limitations if there's more than one person that needs to seal the drawing or document? So the answer is no. You can have as many as you want. Many signers on the same document. I would even add that beyond that, you also have the ability to use, let's put it this way, if somebody within a municipality had a global sign digital signature or a DigiCert digital signature, well, they could use that digital signature to sign the document also. So definitely that is a good question, and hopefully that answers that. Lastly, well, we're at the demo part. So up to now, I've tried to go fast just so we can cover as much material as possible. Any specific questions that you want to share via the chat, I'd say now's a good time to do that. All right. Well, if you do not hesitate. I'm happy to take those questions. I do have it on the screen right now. So what I will do is we will move on to a Windows environment in which I have here. And what I'd like to do is just very quickly, here's an example of a signed PDF that we talked about before. If you look on the side here, it has two signatures. So one was signed by Mark and the other one was signed by Mark. However, I know you get this often. By default, you'll see, oh, signature validity is unknown. So that doesn't mean it's invalid or that it's wrong. It just means, as we talked about before, that whole notion of a trust network. Well, the root certificate trust store. Well, you need to trust this certificate so the first time you do it, every time you sign a document, by the way, the root certificate is part of it. So it's never hard for you to accept that signing certificate. So for example, in various PDF readers, this is done different ways. I just want to be fully transparent. So if you have an old version of PDF reader, actually the first time you'd open up a document, it would ask you, do you want to trust this? And that's all you've got to do. In other cases, your Adobe may be configured to automatically trust anything that comes in. That I've seen a little less often. But if you are confronted with this, and I'm just going to show you it right now, if I go to the certificate details, I can see that this was signed by Mark, and AC1 is one of our certificate authorities here for our purposes here. And if I look at the trust here, I can see that it was that it is signed. Actually, here. And I will add this to my trusted certificates. So now it's warning me, hey, by the way, if you do change the trust setting, this will need to revalidate the signature, but you are confirming that you are overriding trust settings. Do you want to continue? So they are warning you, but again, I trust Mark, and I'm going to use this as a, I'm not going to use this as a root certificate. In this particular case, I'm using the personal certificate. And then, of course, I would have to close this, get in and get back out. I believe it's this one here. Of course, it didn't work this time, probably. Yeah, these are all trusted. I unfortunately cleaned these up, sort of did a little magic in the background, but definitely consider that it will turn green normally if you do this without playing around like I did. So consider that's all you've got to do to trust it. There's explanation on our video for it, and that's it. So if you want to see what it looks like, so let me take you through sort of Continuum Desktop first of all. Maybe worth mentioning that Continuum Desktop was originally designed for the engineering community and the landscape architects and architects. So we were asked to build a free PDF reader and signing tool because back in 2005, Adobe was pretty expensive and the signing feature was only available there. So if I go over here, I can see the PDF reader. I can drill down to my demo files. I can open up a document here. So if I open up my drawing, this will be one scenario of being able to prepare and sign a document. I could convert this to PDFA if I want to. Oh, and it's open on another page. There we go. So now that is PDFA. Now what we recommend is that you work with single sheets, and that's what we're going to do right now. I can go ahead and just create a zone for a seal. And of course, I could have another type of stamp, but let's say I want to save this as a template. So I don't want to have to do this every time. Well, I can go here and say, you know what, save this as my drawing template. And what that allows me to do is that the next time I have another document to do, I could just take the template and drag it across and apply it to that document. So of course, I don't want to have to do this with every one of them. So I can take a batch of files, with the right click of my mouse here. And with the right click, I can do a whole bunch of things, including batch apply a template. So this is one of my many templates, but it's the one we want to use. And I have now placed it. So I've done it for 2, but it could have been 3, it could have been 10. In our case here, we're going to go ahead and take this document as an example, drawing 5. And I can go ahead and sign it with the sign button over here. I can double click to sign, I can right click, and all 3 of them will start the signature wizard. So at this point, I have my signature wizard. I can see my digital signature over here. I have a few different signatures. So if you practice in other jurisdictions, you have you'll see that in parentheses it'll say the association. So OALA and things of that nature. So you'd have all the different associations show up if you had a digital signature for each. I'm going to keep this one here. I have a default seal. This seal here can be altered, not altered, but I can modify the date format. I can modify the location. I can modify the color. And to me, this is really the important element, because what it does is that it gives you a lot more flexibility than you would normally have with Adobe and Bluebeam. So this is really just actually that is a bit low, so I'm just going to make this a bit cleaner to read. There we go. And of course, at this point, I can put custom text where I can specify electronic original, and the zone I want to sign is seal. So at this point, it prompts me for my password. And now I have digitally signed this document. Now, of course, if I wanted to take a set of drawings and I wanted to batch sign them, I don't want to have to open each one of them. And I do realize that there may be some discomfort with some of you with regards to batch signing, but consider that when you're in an office, in a conference room, stamping individual sheets and signing corners, the whole idea here is that batch signing is designed for when you're done with the entire package, so you're ready to sign it. This doesn't take away your responsibility to review the work that you're signing or sealing, but just be aware that the batch functionality can make your life a lot easier to be able to batch sign all these documents. So I'm going to go ahead and, there we go. So for example, I will take these. Again, I'm prompted to have my signature here with this seal. I will remove the notion of for review only. I just want to leave it there. And of course, my signature is active. It's in an active session, and it's signed once successfully. And it did not find a zone called seal in other documents. And that was my purpose here, was to be able to demonstrate that you can take a set of drawings, and even if your name was only on 2 of them, it would only apply the image of your seal and digital signature on that particular document that had the zone called seal. So you don't have to worry about your digital signature being misplaced or placed inadvertently onto another document, that you didn't have a zone predefined for it. Maybe one last thing I can show you is if I take this example, I have a drawing over here, and we talked about attaching CAD files or other file formats. I can come over here and click on Add, and I could decide to add this picture as an example. Now, of course, this could have been anything else, but you get the general idea that you can add the your things here, and then of course I could create a zone to sign the document, and that is pretty straightforward. So there we go. And now this document is digitally signed, but it does have the attachment over here, and you can open up these attachments elsewhere. So these are some of the features that are really interesting for CertifiO desktop as far as batch functionalities. So to push this a bit further, you can of course, when you right click, you can close one or close all or close tabs. This sounds a bit simplified, but if you're working on a set of 15, 20 drawings, this is really helpful to be able to manage this information. I'm going to go ahead and close them all. I'm going to go through the preferences for you. We've got plenty of time. And what I'd like to do is maybe just focus on a few things of interest to you that you may not be aware of. So what we tried to do here was, well, we had requirements for date formats. So in certain jurisdictions, there's a requirement to have a date format that is day, month, year. Another one is, so by default, ours is ISO 20, year, month, day. But if you had to write out the month completely, this is how you would do so, partially. So you can choose the date format that you want and choose it as your default. And moving forward, that's what's going to appear on all your documents that you sign. The other thing that might be of interest, over here, you can choose your default certificate. So let's say you have 3 certificates, but you can choose which one is the one that is the default one that's going to always appear. The save option, we tend to recommend to just overwrite initial file just for efficiency's sake, especially if you're batch signing, but you can rename them if you wanted that as an option. And you could also choose as an option to always go to a destination folder. So those are options that are available, but I would leave that there. What I want to show you here for general is this button here. We have often people that are working on large documents or large sets of documents. This memorizes all your open documents when you close Consigno Desktop, so the next time you come back and reopen it the day after, let's say, well, you don't have to re-go through the folders and reopen them individually. They will automatically all reappear, and that is one I believe that isn't checked off by default. I recommend you do so. If you have these reasons, well, we have basic reasons that show up here. You can add your own. So for review only today, for whatever reason, so you can add as many as you want. Security I wouldn't touch. It's SHA-2. That's pretty much standard out there. Signature appearance. This is empty when you first get it. So let me get back to this in a second. I'll cover a few of the elements, and I'll come back to it. So signature zones is a predefined format of the zone. So if you do have a requirement, for example, that you are looking to, so if you have an example where you are looking to keep the size of the seal like 1 inch by 1 inch or 2 inch by 2 inch, well, if you have these predefined zones, you can, with just one click, instead of dragging across, choose one of these predefined zones, and that is, and you can build as many as you want. So you could have one for initials, one for seals, one for signature, or a city stamp, for example. So that is one scenario. Stamping here is just, there is a stamping feature, and I'm going to show it right after, and that is the ability to apply electronic signature. Now, the only thing, the software is free, so it can be installed on as many workstations as you want. Drafters can prepare work. However, there are two things they can't do. They can't stamp, they can't apply the electronic signature, and they can't apply digital signature. So, of course, the first time that you use this stamping feature, you'll be asked to prove that you have a digital signature by putting in your password. That will unlock it, and you'll be good to go afterwards. So that is what this is for, and of course, you don't want to display this message every time you do that. Your templates are stored here in a specific location, so just be aware that if you need to share them with other members or other people, well, they're all XML files that you can copy and give to somebody else, and they can go ahead and just click on browse and select whatever folder. So that's one option. And lastly, so we'll get back to signature appearances. These are all the different images I have. So you can have as many as you want. And when I click on add, I can choose from the template that we can download. And this template, by the way, has the exact same size as the sample signature zones that we provide you. In our case, we're just going to take an image of a seal for sake of discussion. Actually, there we go. So a few things I want to highlight that'll make your life a lot easier. So step one, you have an image. There's a good chance the image may not be perfectly clean, so you can crop it accordingly so that it fits better, and you can leave a bit of space for text. Once I click on next, it's going to convert to full transparency. So we do that for you for all the images you upload. For a seal, this is wonderful. So you're given 4 options. Which one is the cleanest one? So I'll say number 1 is the cleanest. As an FYI, if I was doing a permit stamp and I wanted that permit stamp to be a full opaque white, for example, I could skip this step and it would stay without a transparent background. Now, in my case, I want the transparency, so I'm going to go ahead and put on next. But if you hadn't done that, it would have stayed a full opaque background. And of course, here I've got my signature appearance, so I'm going to give it a name, seal, actually AAA, seal. And of course, I can display the signing date, signature reason, custom text. For those of you who may not be comfortable, custom text is a bit different. The way it works is that you just draw wherever the size you want and the place you want. So for For stamps, this could be really helpful. So I could say, you know what, I want it really small, and I'm just going to put it below here. And I would say City of Edmonton as an example. If I wanted to make sure that the terminology City of Edmonton appeared every time I sign, well, this is one way of doing it. And of course, I could click on Save and set it as default, and now this becomes my new favorite image. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and apply and close. I said that I would show you a few more things, stamping in particular. So like I said, what we recommend is that you take a set of documents, and with the right click of your mouse, you can merge files, and that's what we would recommend if you were trying to assemble a package for a customer. You would do the individual sheets, batch apply template, batch sign, and merge. And then, of course, the new merge package will be an unsigned PDF. It is a copy to which you can apply a signature afterwards. However, let's say that you are really intent on having a 10-page drawing. So, for example, I have this here over here. So this is 10 pages. I've assembled these already. I'm happy with it. Well, I can create a zone, and I could draw it over here. And instead of saying this will be on the current page, I'm going to say that I want this on all pages. And I could have said only on the last page, and I could have done a custom selection. So you've got a lot of flexibility. We're going to go ahead and put it on all pages. And at this point, I want to click on the stamp button. And what this is going to do is give me access to all my different images that I've created. And of course, then I choose which of these I want to stamp. Now, it's important to specify that stamping is not signing. Once I click on Finish here, all these images have been placed on all 10 pages. And of course, I could have moved the zones around, and I could go ahead and create another zone and apply it, let's say, on just the first page. There we go. So now I can go back to the first page. I've got my zone here for a signature. And at this point, I could create another zone, and I'm going to do this on purpose. And I'm going to go ahead and sign it now. So I'm ready to sign this document. It has my signing certificate. I have my image here. I'm satisfied. I go ahead and do it. It is now digitally signed. So at this point now, if you notice the stamping button grayed out, so just be aware that from the moment that you apply one signature, these zones can only be used for signing. Until you have one signature zones can be used for stamping, or with an electronic signature, or signing, one or the other. But once you have one digital signature, that's just something to keep in mind. And what the last thing you want to do, just as an FYI, is to have a 10-page document in which you will draw the same box and sign each page individually. I really do not recommend that. If you are to stamp, go ahead and then sign, but I definitely would not apply a digital signature to each individual page. And the example I'm going to do now is just if I take these documents and I I merge them. I can choose to merge these. These were signed documents, and I can go ahead and save it as a copy and then have other documents added to it. Or I can go ahead and continue and sign this new merged file with an invisible signature because there's no zone for it. And that will go ahead and sign this new document. ABC today. This is my new merge signed document that has both the images of my seal and the digital signature on it. So if I go to well, this would be the same example, by the way. So I do have the digital signature over here. Actually, tell you what, let's I'm not finding it on my desktop. Yeah, I may not have saved it in the right spot, but it is digitally signed. So let me just do it again. So if I take actually here, let's do it a bit differently. I want to show you one more thing before we move on to the last part with Bluebeam and Adobe. So I have here a set of drawings. So I'm going to close Consigno Desktop right now. So the software is closed, and I can take a set of documents over here. And with a right click of my mouse, if you notice, Bluebeam has a few features here with combining files. And with regards to Adobe, they have a few. What we've done is under Send To, you have the most common features of Consigno all available on the right click of a mouse. I bring this up because it's really important that people understand that once you configured Consigno Desktop, you could, in theory, never open it again. You could choose to do everything just simply with a right click of a mouse. So I could batch convert the PDFAs, I could batch apply template, I could batch stamp and sign. We even have a button called Combined Actions, and this will actually do everything in one single swoop. So literally, this here will convert to PDFA. I'll have to change to a drawing that is A1 size, so I've got it over here. And I want to put the image of my seal here, and under the zone called Mark Seal. And so this here is going to batch convert all these documents, batch apply template, and batch sign, all in one single action for these 6 documents. So this is really where I find the biggest magic is when it comes to Consigno Desktop, is having the ability to do all of this in one single operation. And it's going to go ahead and sign all these documents. Now, of course, once this is done, it's telling me that this was successful. How do I know which one is signed and which one isn't? Well, I could take a set of documents over here, and with a right click of my mouse, I can go under Send To, and of course I could merge, but what I'd like to do is verify which one is signed and which one isn't. And I can see here that these were digitally signed. These have signatures from another third party. Not necessarily a notarious issued signature. These are unsigned, and the number here is actually the number of digital signing certificates inside the PDF, meaning if you know that you have to have 2 digital signatures on a document before it goes out the door, you would know that these aren't ready yet. So this is really the neat part I find, is really to leverage all of these right-click features to their full potential. Highly recommend it. And of course, we talked about Adobe and Bluebeam. So let me take a document in Bluebeam. So I have here a drawing. Hopefully this is not one that I've already signed that I kept open, but I'm going to go, if you notice in Adobe, in Bluebeam, there are certain batch functionalities that I can do with stamping. There is also the ability to do file attachments like I showed you in Consigno Desktop. And of course, signing would be something like this, where I click on the sign button, I draw a box, and at this point, my signature wizard will look something like this. I would see all my certificates. Now, in the case of Bluebeam, they'll even show me my self-signed certificate. So my fake ID, Marco Faco, is over here, but I'm going to use my notarious signature. And of course, I've got all these different appearances that I could build. And in my case, I'm just going to use this one here, which is the image of my seal. And when I click on OK, it's going to prompt me to save it. And I'm going to give it a second. It'll prompt me to put in my password. And now it is digitally signed. So visually, you can tell it looks pretty similar. If I wanted to do the same exercise in Adobe, actually, here, let me take this document here. So this is an Adobe. This is actually here. No, let me do this in. There we go. I'm going to do this in Reader DC, the latest version, because the other one is an older version you likely don't have anymore. So in Adobe Reader DC, our zones will appear. So if you do create a zone in desktop, it will appear here. However, to get to sign, this is a bit more complicated. If you do this sign button, this is actually just an electronic signature. It's just a picture. You have to go under More Tools and under Certificates and digitally sign by drawing a box, just like we did in Bluebeam and Consigno Desktop. And of course, here, the screen is a bit different, but the concept is the same. It'll ask me which certificate I want, so I'm going to use this one. But this is very much similar. And of course, you have to remember these certificates are in what's called your Windows Certificate Store. So they will all appear in any PDF reader. I did nothing here to special to be able to have them appear in this section. So this is again part of the what we call the standard. So there's nothing to configure necessarily. Generally, it'll find it right away if it's in your Windows Store, and of course ours would be out of the box. And when I continue, again, I've got a signature zone. That's just a simple signature with a bit of text. I have a seal zone. I have an approval stamp. So again, you've got these options, but as you can tell, the options to move text around, color, texture, so on, a bit more difficult. But the mechanics are about the same, and when I click on sign, I'll be asked to save the file. And it's going to prompt me to put in my password. And it's going to go ahead and apply my signature on it. So I went a bit quick, and I can appreciate that this was a bit quick. I wanted to make sure to at least cover the basics of how you could prepare and sign with different tools. I realize that's some of the questions. Maybe to wrap up on this part, I also have the link to verifio.com. So let's say that you do have a customer, they want to verify, they don't know how to validate or trust and do whatever you have as an option. Well, if I look at the demo file over here and I take a signed document, and I want to make sure that it was, there we go. So I have here one that is signed with a digital signature from Notarius and a self-signed certificate from Adobe. So when I upload this document, it should show me a lot of information that they can verify. I don't recommend this for large volumes of document. As you can imagine, this would become a bit cumbersome, but it's something that's free and available to you. And of course, it'll tell you everything about the document. So it'll say, hey, by the way, the integrity of the document has been undetermined because there's at least one signature that has uncertain validity, and that is because one of these signatures is not issued by Notarius. So I can see some details of these different types of signatures. And just very quickly to wrap up, I'm going to conclude with just a simple sign drawing that we did this morning and illustrate that. There we go. So now somebody that were to take a look at your document would see, okay, integrity has been preserved. It claims to be PDFA. It is signed by Mark with an employee signature, or in this case, AALA. And I can see the details of that over here. So that is, I was wondering if there were any questions. I got the 5-minute warning 2 minutes ago. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And of course, if you are interested in learning more about it, I definitely recommend that you can reach out to us, and we'll be happy to assist you with that. On that note, I want to thank you very much for your time today, and hopefully you've got some other wonderful sessions coming up this afternoon, and you've got my contact info, at least in the speaker information. So if any of you need questions, information, more training, we do quite a bit of training. If I take, for example, over here, but we do offer a whole bunch of different training features to assist you. So on that note, I want to be mindful of your time and want to thank you once again for your participation. Thanks a lot, Todd.
Perfect.
Thanks for the
Thank
invitation.
you, Mark. Have a great day, everyone. Just a reminder, the LATs and Associates have business meetings, and there is musical bingo starting in just about 2 minutes. So thanks, Mark, for your support. We really appreciate it. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next sessions.
See ya. Thanks, Todd. Good luck.